These are scenes of the occupation of Ukrainian cities and villages. People came out in their thousands to protest against the invaders' aggression. In every occupied settlement, the orcs were told to go back farther than the Far East.
Go home! Go home! Go home!
Ukrainians poisoned the occupiers with pies, disabled their equipment, and directed artillery and missiles at the enemy.
They are afraid to drink the local water because it might be poison, because Russian soldiers, after eating pies, are in intensive care.
For the Russians, the ground was literally burning under their feet.
How population treat you?
Well, to put it mildly, no one was waiting for us there. Nobody needed us there. That's putting it very mildly and concisely. Contact with the local population was not encouraged, both officially and unofficially.
Ukrainian protests were only suppressed by military force.
I, Maganova Valentina, am now in Kherson, and I am addressing everyone who is in Ukraine, all its residents. I'm breathing in.
And this is Russian territory, the Kursk region, where the Ukrainian army has entered.
They're shouting glory to Ukraine. Can you imagine?
The Russians aren't putting up any resistance at all to the army of a foreign state. Not a single person came out to defend Russia, not with a little flag, not with a grandpa on a stick. And everyone quickly hid their St. George ribbons. The local Russian population quickly accepted the occupation. The only thing they're upset about is the inaction of their own authorities, who abandoned them.
Journalists, they say,
How am I supposed to know now?
before when you called
To hell with them. They're all lying through their teeth. What are they saying? What is Putin saying? That so many of yours have been killed. So much equipment, so much of this, so much of that. I just sit here and nod my head.
Some Russians, of course, did go out into the streets, but not to protest, just to rummage through the belongings of their neighbors who had fled.
good afternoon. Excuse me, are you a local resident?
Yes.
Are the Ukrainians treating you very well?
No problems.
Do you have quite enough to eat and plenty to drink?
For food and drink, we go to the various stores.
Kremlin propaganda, leaping out of every outlet, is trying to rally Russians for a people's war. The enemy is trampling our land. Not a step back. And other nonsense straight from the history books.
We shouldn't be telling our society that there are just some minor local skirmishes happening over there, that it's merely some ongoing process. While here we have some kind of peaceful negotiations taking place, we need to say that in reality, this is a matter of life and death, not just for our state, but for our people.
But people aren't rising up. They're not coming out to stop the AFU. They're not protesting against the new authorities. And that's all because, over the past 20 years, the Putin regime has taught Russians that going out into the streets and protesting is forbidden, that showing initiative and taking a civic stance is dangerous and harmful. And now they're reaping the consequences. If people don't have civil rights, then why should they defend their citizenship?
Look, I'm not resisting.
And even those die-hard, unwavering Putin supporters who genuinely and truly back him, they sit quietly and keep their heads down because they feel an overwhelming and profound fear of the authorities and the state. It doesn't matter who is in power, Putin's regime or now the Ukrainian one. Power is taboo. They're afraid of it and don't dare to contradict it.
So we're taking the canned food, the fishbowl.
Are you still living at home or in the basement?
We're at home. We're living at home. We gathered, said, we're not bothering you, anyone. Just live in peace. Everything is fine.
Putin has created a society of slaves. And slaves don't rise up against an external threat. Slaves, as a rule, rise up against their own masters, and the Kremlin itself is pushing them toward this. The character from the Kharkiv fan song Comrade La 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 was forced to step on the most sensitive sore spot. Conscripts were thrown into battle. Their bodies are used to make up for the command's mistakes and to plug the gaps that appeared after the Kadyrovites' negative offensive.
Pour a generous glass of Orilka, my dear friend. A playful little boar is running cheerfully across the green field.
The world's second army is literally resisting the invasion with former schoolboys. Conscripts are dying en masse and being taken prisoner.
Everyone always says, how can you possibly use conscripts there? What exactly are you talking about over there? This is our territory. They are our servicemen. They have taken the oath. According to all our laws, are they not obliged to fulfill their military duty?
Mothers who had remained steadfastly silent for 2.5 years suddenly noticed the war. And it turned out they don't like it when their boys die for the interests of a pale geostrategist. They're no longer interested in the motherland or in greatness.
I appeal to all mothers. Conscripts are dying right now in the Kursk region. They are being killed, maimed, wounded, and taken prisoner. But these boys say that they were given only 3 days of preparation for combat and then left behind, that they begged to be evacuated, but no one helped them. They were left there.
At this point, the protest really began to grow. And not against the Ukrainian forces, who are cutting down and capturing their children, but specifically against the Führer, who sent these children to be slaughtered, despite promising not to do so.
I want to emphasize conscript soldiers are not participating and will not participate in combat operations.
Trusting Putin is like trusting lice that promise not to bite. The Kursk operation exposed Russia's real problem and showed the world the incredible rift within its stagnant society. With its insane propaganda, the Kremlin has trapped itself. For years, Kremlin minions have been building a personality cult and convincing the population that Russia is Putin.
No Putin or Russia today. That's why only consolidation truly around the president can indeed save all of us.
And Russians have absorbed this thoroughly well, so now they truly don't want to defend the motherland, because the motherland is Putin. And no one wants to die for Putin.
It shouldn't be. Everyone involved should be immediately removed and replaced by other people, including at the head of the country. Another person nothing, can't do it, doesn't show results. Because ahead of us lie big troubles, big troubles. I'm not going to urge anyone to go to the front right now. I just won't. I won't take that sin upon my soul. I wouldn't send my own son now. And that's why I won't send other people's children either.
On the contrary, in the Russian army and among the nuclear Z community, an open rebellion against the Kremlin is already brewing. Volodya is being personally blamed for all the failures, and not just the military ones. Everything is being held against him.
The country is not just on the brink of disaster or even right next to it. Our country is already in trouble, in big trouble. Drones are flying all over the central part of Russia, all the way to Moscow and St. Petersburg. They even attacked the Kremlin. Our Black Sea fleets is being taken out as if we are not a great power with a great fleet, but some third-rate country whose ships can be destroyed at will. Our Air Force is practically not operating because it too is being taken out.
This is the commander of the Russian PMC, paladin one of Moscow's many terrorist groups. He has been fighting against Ukraine since 2014. He is a product and creation of Putin's system. But even this fearsome marauder and killer is truly tired of his master's insane rule.
We call on everyone to join our alliance to truly save our beloved country. The critical point of no return has already been crossed.
We've seen this somewhere before. There was one bold guy who declared a march for justice.
We're blocking the city of Rostov and heading to Moscow.
But while Prigozhin was not formally trying to overthrow the Kremlin's power, and was simply trying to bargain for better terms of service for himself and his gang, now Russian military figures are openly calling for Putin himself to be removed. In fact, this is already an uprising against Moscow.
And all of this was indeed done by the so-called president, the truly great Putin, a leader of significant influence.
We recommend that the new bold revolutionary avoid using Russian airlines until he sees things through to the end.
Surely the question is hanging in the air, what happened to the company's leadership and so on. But we know about the plane crash. Just recently, The head of the investigative committee reported to me about it. Fragments of hand grenades were found in the bodies of those who died in the plane crash. There was no external impact on the plane.
The hopeless situation at the front has melted both the Z-patched army lackeys and jesters, the so-called war correspondents and telegram warriors. The Z community has also risen up and, without hesitation, is spreading anti-Kremlin propaganda within the army.
That old man and his team are finished. They should all just be kicked out. I'm not afraid to say this.
There are some who do not openly call for the hanging of Pina with Gerasimov's tie, but they shout that everything is lost and that this insane war must come to an end.
I feel so sorry for the people. We need to put an end to this fratricidal slaughter. What can I say to you? We need to stop this murderous bloodshed. Enough with the fighting already. My soul is already unbearably tormented by everything, by the losses, by the human casualties, by the senselessness of this war. After these 2.5 years, there is no ideology left at all. None at all. This time I visited several units while I had the chance. No ideology whatsoever.
And what does it mean to call for an end to the war? It means bringing hundreds of thousands of angry, armed people back to Russia. Well, except for the Kursk region.
Prepare for the worst-case scenario. Prepare for the possibility that we may have to sacrifice these territories, God willing, without people, so that everyone, including the elderly, can be evacuated.
And what exactly will these hundreds of thousands of SVO heroes do when they eventually return to their impoverished slums with outdoor toilets, fully realizing that they will no longer be paid those substantial 5-figure sums for their egregious war crimes? They will all go to the Tsar for answers, and on the way, they loot the estates of officials and generals. This has already happened before, in 1917. Lenin actively urged the soldiers to stop fighting and return home. And that's exactly what they did. And we all know how things ended for the Tsar. There's an interesting and peculiar pattern. In Russia, all the leaders of significant uprisings are bald, and the Tsars, who were executed, always had some notable connection to Germany. Yes, some might say that the Russian army is far from collapse. It continues to advance in Donbass and the Kharkiv region, but it does so at the cost of horrific casualties. Russian soldiers are being buried in mass graves, and none of them understand anymore what they're fighting for or why they're dying.
I'm telling you, that's it, that's all. We have no more strength left. 3 days without food, without water. No support at all. I took on the responsibility of the commander. The commander is wounded. Butcher, hurry over there. Butcher?
Number?
I have no strength left. I'm really thirsty. I was the third one I bled out. Bara, that's the call sign. He's probably gone, probably dead.
Morale within the army is so incredibly low that the Kremlin even had to ban soldiers from using their phones, so they couldn't record videos about the truly dire situation within the troops, so they couldn't publicly complain about their commanders and the authorities who are disposing of them and their lives.
They even beat the Greenhorns to death. That's the honor here. Just with iPhones. And that's the way it is.
And now the situation has gotten even worse. The Russian soldiers, advancing deeply into Ukraine and drowning in their own blood, have a logical and pressing question. Why should they die to seize a piece of someone else's country if there's no one left to defend their own homes in the Kursk region?
The guys are being taken away lawlessly.
The realization that the enemy isn't in Kiev but in Moscow is gradually dawning. The soldiers' fear of the officers and security agents is giving way to hatred toward them. And a mutiny in the Russian army is becoming virtually inevitable.
First, the truly good news. Everything is absolutely great in the world and there's a significant civil war going on in Russia. Approximately 15,000 nuclear warheads are currently at stake.
The Russian army constantly demonstrates its unwillingness to fight for Putin. Soldiers are surrendering en masse, hundreds at a time.
During the offensive, the SBU Special Forces captured 102 Russian soldiers.
And this isn't in Ukraine. but while defending their own land.
Already hundreds of Russian soldiers have surrendered, and all of them will be treated humanely. They never received such treatment even in their own Russian army.
The army gladly supported Prigozhin's mutiny. Soldiers and even officers openly sympathized with him.
We're here from the front lines, MZ. All the guys send their regards to you. We fully support what you're doing and we're all for it. If anything happens, we'll make some noise, we'll come at any time.
Russian soldiers are criticizing their superiors more boldly and harshly, demanding an end to the war.
We've been rotting here in the trenches with the mice for a year and a half now. When will all this end? Putin, fuck. Shoigu, you bitch. When the fuck will all this end? I'm fucking sick of it. What is our fucking army? The one we've been told shit about for so many fucking years? I support that guy Sanya, who had the guts to fucking speak out and say it all. Where the fuck is our army, Putin?
The Kremlin is aware of the danger of a military mutiny, so they're tightening the screws even more. They're already considering a law against Z military bloggers who criticize the authorities. They want to put them in prison for 10 years.
Stop being afraid to speak the truth. Stop being afraid. And stop being cowards. No matter how hard it may sound. This especially applies to active servicemen, officers, generals, everyone. Enough with the silence. We really need to speak up and unite.
And another important factor for a successful uprising. It's not just ordinary soldiers who are dissatisfied with the Kremlin, but also high-ranking military officials, colonels, and generals. The Kremlin is repressing combat officers en masse, those who dared to speak unfavorably about the regime. A vivid example is General Popov.
Do you have any other questions for me at this time?
No, Your Honor.
No questions?
There have been worse times.
His subordinates fully supported the disgraced general and showed their willingness to follow him to the very end.
Don't make Ivan Ivanovich Popov out to be a rebel. He is our general, our very own general, our beloved general, with his soldiers, officers, his subordinates, his people.
The mutiny in the Russian army is being taken seriously, not only in the Kremlin, but also in Ukraine. The head of the GUR, Kyrilo Budanov, made a statement that made Putin dig his bunker even deeper. The Ukrainian general said that the leader of a future uprising is already in Russia and is actively preparing for it.
If we are to discuss possible unrest among various ethnic groups, a local leader is certainly needed for that. He is indeed a good leader, but he still needs to gain more experience. Only then can we truly talk about anything meaningful.
Who is he? The bald guy from Brazzers? The bold guy from the PMC? The bold guy from Kvartal? A disgraced general? A Z-blogger? Or an angry conscript's mother? It could be anyone in Russia, even Shoigu.
I would like to remind you that this video is created for entertainment purposes and contains elements of satire and irony. All facts and events are presented in a hyperbolized or exaggerated form to convey a comedic or dramatic effect. Our goal is not to mislead, but to highlight humor. Please take it with a smile.